Hey everybody, I am Christina Mallon. I lead inclusive design at Microsoft. What does that mean? Basically, my job is to get research teams, products teams, engineering teams, designers to really co-create with underfunded communities. And we're really excited to show you our mental health and cognition guidebook that we are launching internally today and externally at Ability Summit. This work was a massive cross-company V team that put this together. 12 different teams across Microsoft and did this while a lot of us were not in the office. So really great hybrid working here. In addition to the many people that we have their photos up, there were so many across the company. Many of us and myself have mental health conditions. So really this work was personal for many. And also this work is built off, the great work from disability and mental health advocates that came before us. We're going to start off by really talking about how this is evolving Microsoft's view of inclusive design. I believe in the V team and many people at Microsoft believe that inclusive design is Microsoft's greatest tools to help every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So our goal is to really extend the existing inclusive design guidelines to really work for mental health and cognition into the product development lifecycle and rise as thought leaders and allies in this space. We know that designing for inclusion is good, but why have we not considered mental health? Especially since 1 in 4 people have a mental health condition globally. And we've seen a 25% increase in anxiety and depression since the pandemic has begun. And it's not only Microsoft that hasn't really been able to look at the products and say, are we considering mental health? It's Google, Apple, Facebook. No one has really looked into mental health as a design thought because maybe it's too complicated. We're not sure, but we needed to take a stand and try to see how our products were affecting individuals' mental health. And this work has been going on for a long time, but we really felt we needed to get this out given the current rise in mental health conditions. In 2015, we launched the original Inclusive Design Toolkit, which was just the base of inclusive design. So really gave an overall methodology that you're all really used to. Last year, we really started to get into kind of what we call the brain stuff and launched the Cognition Toolkit. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to launch the Mental Health Toolkit at Ability Summit. This is really taking from the Cognitive Toolkit and building through a lens of mental health. Because we know that cognition affects mental health and mental health affects cognition. And we thought that it was best that instead of just giving, multiple guidance for cognition, one for mental health, one for physical disabilities, let's try to layer them all on so that we can have one single source of guidance. So I'm going to hand it over to my partner in crime, Allie, who's going to take you through our approach. Over to you, Allie.
Thank you, Christina. I'm Allie. I'm a designer in Outlook and Time and Places, and I also co-lead the mental health and cognition B team with Christina. So we see this kind of research in our own XC Sparks. And being a designer on Outlook, it was really important to me to kind of figure out how do we prioritize mental health, and that has kind of tessellated into this whole effort across our company and even externally. And I think part of that is work is stress. And so instead of people seeing office and thinking office caused me stress, can they actually see office and say office supports me? And then about burning out. Burning out is kind of an example showing that business needs and individual needs align. When we kind of can help people protect themselves and not get exhausted, we're actually also helping the business as well. And then boundaries. Boundaries are huge. Outlook Mobile is amazing. We can work wherever, whenever, but then we're also working wherever, whenever, all the time. And instead, that same kind of thinking can be shifted of how can we protect work-life balance? Because we are that kind of gate between work and life. We own people's mornings, and there's so much that we could do there, especially with hybrid work. And we really need to take the equal responsibility that food producers do. There's been such a significant weight that's been on physical health, and that's why food is FDA regulated. Chefs really care about what they put in your food. And the same way, software can really, really impact mental health and cognition. We impact the way people feel, think, and behave. Our tools are the backbone of the workplace, and I really think that we can make a difference here. So how can we extend and apply the inclusive design method? First, we recognize exclusion. And so we were thinking, how do we actually bring that closer to product so we can really drive an impact in the life cycle? So first, we help people evaluate their products. So they identify what in their design could affect mental health or cognition. Number two, learning for diversity. So that really is how do we help people empathize with the most in need? In our toolkit, you'll see a bunch of quotes from users that have conditions that you can put side by side in your designs and also use to advocate with your partners as you're creating new features or working on your own features. And then number three is how do we create multiple options using different tips and examples and illustrations? And we kind of have like a 5-tier approach. So the first thing we did is we identified what are the top stressors for the greatest impact. So we looked across a bunch of different research. We did co-creation sessions, we did publications, and we identified these are the top 14 design patterns that can really impact mental health and cognition. And these are in the fabric of everything we create. And that's because one of these things can be a trigger that can lead to a self-deprecating cycle and actually break executive functioning. Executive functioning is like, what am I working on? I'm distracted. What did I even do today? I'm the worst. And one of these things could be a trigger for that. When people are using a product that they can't use, they don't think maybe this wasn't inclusively designed. They actually tend to blame it on themselves, and we really, really want to prevent that. And we've listened to a lot of users across all of these design patterns to really, really create this guidance. We know that with our rapid pace product development lifecycle, it's just not realistic to co-create for every feature. So we wanted to bring the user voice in the forefront, and you can see that in our plugin and our guidance. It also gives a greater voice for people with conditions that are taking the blame on themselves and may not be giving that feedback. And number two is the more that we can focus on the needs for focus and well-being, the more that we can improve mental health and cognitions for our users and actually help enterprises be more productive. So if you actually look at the App Store today, the word productivity has changed. If you search productivity, it's really apps that help you focus like Flora, or apps that help you plan your days so it's a fulfilling day, like structured. And that really shows like the growth of the word. It's about the individual need of accomplishment and success and not just efficiency. And these are some of the needs. We have more in the guidebook, but a lot of these are around managing distractions, feeling autonomy and belonging, big and hybrid, providing reassurance and support, a lot of what Copilot can do, helping with task initiation and completion, helping with memory, and breaking down larger tasks into small wins. This one's my favorite. Let's celebrate success as often as possible to really enhance flow. When we do that, we're catalyzing positive emotions for our users and their systems. So in that cycle that we showed before, that cycle can actually be broken when someone feels good about themselves. And we can really help for that by recognizing their success. When we celebrate success in a product, they are feeling this product rocks. I enjoy using it because I'm good at it. And then also to themselves. And it's a gas pedal on the flow that they're already experiencing and can carry over into their days, into their relationships, and into their ability to create and innovate. And that's really where the magic happens. So backing up to those user needs before, the more that we can break down these larger tasks into small wins and celebrate success along the way, the more that we can improve people's mental health. And number 4 is incorporating feeling and thinking into evaluation. So this is a really, really hard problem. In product development today, I'm sure all of you know Mao and Dao, and we measure the success of our products through engagements. I think we all also know that's not a user's goal to use our product and new feature all of the time, all of our new products and features all the time. So it creates this kind of cacophony on the screen that we really want to help try and prevent. And you can see that when you're asking someone how they're feeling when they're using a product versus when you're just looking at the data. Also, in the design industry before, we kind of pedestalize addictive UX patterns like hooked models. And so that's something we want to really take a step back from and realize that might not be the best thing for well-being. And we're doing a lot at Microsoft now with the feel, think, act models to kind of incorporate better ways to measure to give feeling and thinking a more equal seat at the table. And a user can do a million things in their app a day, but unless they really felt that success and thought they were successful, are they? And are they going to enjoy using our products? And then number 5 is to co-create, modify, and evangelize. So we did one case study with this with Outlook Copilot, where we gave users access and tested it with mental health conditions, which we'll be sharing in the session after this. And that really gave new insights that fed back into Copilot across Microsoft and also improving in our product. I myself have a mental health condition of PTSD, and I've watched my family members go in and out of mental health hospitals my whole life. And I can confidently say that this is a really unique value across inclusive design, where we can really improve our products by just including people with conditions inside of our research, and getting those insights for everyone to kind of extend that to the many of us to improve our well-being. And I'm going to pass it off to Will.
Thanks, Allie. Hey, everyone. My name is Will. I'm a designer on Viva Insights. I'm really excited to be here to share our guidance. So how does all of this translate into actionable guidance? We can think of this as distilling down to three key steps: preserve, direct, and customize. So for preserve, headspace should be respected above all else, with careful consideration given as to where and when to surface patterns that could be triggering or distracting, so that users feel in control and productive in their workflow. For direct, when it comes to the flow of information and navigation, users should always know where they are and how to get to where they need to go. Any ambiguity, as Ali mentioned earlier, can frustrate users, creating a negative attitude toward the system or themselves. And finally, customize. Everyone creates and consumes information in a way that's unique to them. By giving users options that accommodate these needs and preferences, we empower everyone to do their best work. So we're taking a 3-tiered approach to documenting and sharing this guidance as part of the mental health toolkit, each intended to support people, process, and product. Our first there at the top is the guidebook, which is intended to help anyone better understand how to design inclusively for mental health and cognition, with a strong foundation of methodology, research, co-creation insights, and empathy building. Our second and newest avenue for guidance is our Figma plugin, which lets us meet product makers where they are and actively support in the product development process. Our goal for this is to help educate, evaluate, and update current and future design work. And finally, we'll be documenting case studies, product proof to show real world examples of how this guidance can help fulfill user needs, starting with Copilot in Outlook and Microsoft Viva, which you can hear about right after this session, as Ali mentioned earlier. So as you can see, inclusive design and co-creation are a core part of the process, no matter the stage. Product makers can start with the guidebook to empathize with users and define a challenge, which then hands off to our Figma plugin as you begin to ideate, execute, and test. By meeting designers and other product makers where they are, we'll be able to educate and scale inclusive design more than ever before by making our product guidance available on the inclusive design website and our plugin available to anyone who uses Figma. I'll now hand it over to Karina, who is going to walk through some of our Fluent guidance.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karina, and I'm on the Fluent Systems horizontal design team. As someone who is neurodivergent, dyslexic, and English as a second language, it's been really, really powerful to see a shift on not just how we make things, but how we make people feel. With some of the new WCAG 2.2 laws coming into play that are specifically geared towards helping people with mental health and cognition disabilities, it's not just becoming a trend, but it's becoming like best practice. And that's something that I think we're all learning and leaning into. Creating a design system, you guys switch slides, thanks. Creating a design system is really no small feat. Next slide. Not only does it have to be intuitive and powerful, but it also has to be malleable to accommodate everyone on any platform, on any device, anywhere. Next slide. Thank you. Sorry, guys. As a systems designer, we're not just making components for the end user, we're actually making components for everyone here at Microsoft to use. So we have a different set of problems with different solutions. This is why we start at the atomic level with our core principles, where we align code and user research. We try to make things flexible, systemized applications of our design principles, and now mental health as some of our new standards. This is all part of our accessibility that we built into our atomic components. What we've learned in the past is retrofitting accessibility at the end is expensive and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So aligning all of our code and design to our WCAG principles at the atomic levels ensures a cohesive approach to design, but also a solution that our users and everyone at Microsoft can meet and have the same experience every time. This leads to a robust guidance that we create on every single one of our components. Not only do we specify behavior and overflow to fit the 400% zoom and mobile, but we also put in the tab stops and screen reader stops using the wonderful focus order plugin that we already have in our library. Then on top of that, we also have begun to evangelize these accessible practices with a one-stop shop Fluent collection of resources, self-help, and accessible best practices. This is the goal. The goal here is to create that one place where everybody can either find the right person to talk to or find the right answers. When it comes to mental health, we are working at building all of these into the plugins, into the components themselves. But some things we can't build at the atomic level. Some things are just really about best practices and how we use our components, not just how we make them. So we're designing and we've derived these gentle nudges that if you think about a menu where you have your chef special or this item is spicy, we've introduced these little reminders throughout our guidance that nudge you into designing for people with mental health and cognition in mind. So These are being peppered throughout our guidance now, and you will be able to see these in the coming future. So thank you.
Thanks, Karina. Just going to go to a next slide. So, hi, my name is Amanda, and I'm one of the designers on Windows, but I'm also one of the many designers that have been helping build this mental health and cognition plugin. And I know we've been talking about it a little bit. So now that we've gone through some of the guidance, we really want to give you all a sneak peek into what the plugin looks like ahead of our external release next week, and just show you how to use it, how you can use it to improve some of your designs to be better for mental health. So here I'm going to be walking through from the POV of a designer using it for the first time. So as a designer, I really want to put out good work in the world, but I also want to be more inclusive in my thinking and learn how to improve my designs. After browsing for inclusive tools and coming across the plugin, I might decide to give this plugin a try and try it on some of my latest Figma files and wireframes. So since this is my first time using the plugin, I might be greeted with a brief tutorial where I can learn about the principles behind the plugin, such as preserve, direct, and customize that Will talked about. I can learn how to use it effectively in my work and also how to use it to advocate for best practices. So once I'm done with the tutorial, I can get started. Upon loading the plugin, I'll notice a list of design patterns in the top navigation bar here, where I can look for more guidance. So in my Figma file here, one of the common design elements that I'm working on are pop-ups. So from the plugin, I can decide to look through the guidance and review it against my designs. For each of the design patterns that we have in the plugin, we can allow people to check the definition and the info icon here if they want a little bit more details. So here I learned that pop-ups include notifications, tooltips, toasts, callouts, and teaching UX. But I also noticed that there's a few cards under the guidance tab here as I scroll down, and each card contains a series of checklists to help me evaluate my designs. So the first one here that I see is preserve, which ties back to our principles for preserving attention and motivation. The next one is direct, directing action and energy. And lastly, we have customize, customizing experiences to increase belonging and agency. I can add each of these checklists to my Figma file to use them as checklists, or I can add the full thing below here with all three categories. But for the pop-up in my wireframes right now, I might not be super certain about the timing or the logic on how to show pop-ups. So from the plugin, I also see that it says pop-ups can often interrupt a user's intended action, and this can often lead to things like distractions, stress, and anxiety. So I think preserve here might fit the best around my concerns about timing. So let's go ahead and add that card and go through the guidance in more detail. So here I can drag it from the plugin itself. And once I let go, I'll see the card appear in my layers panel. So taking a look a little bit closer into the guidance, as I read through the checklist, I might realize that maybe I need to be a bit more intentional when surfacing pop-ups and to only show them when the info is relevant. I can also use an individual's behavior to inform the timing. And I really like the example of showing a pop-up to help initiate a task after a period of inactivity. Because this card has been added directly in my layers panel, I can start to check off the items that I've addressed as I iterate on my designs. And thanks to the guidance, after some iteration, I might decide to modify the pop-up to only appear after a period of inactivity or if the user's in an empty state. I've moved it from being a center focal point to feeling a little bit more like a suggestion on the side to help preserve attention. By surfacing pop-ups more contextually, the hope is that this can help the content feel more actionable and a little bit less disruptive. So another example that we want to run through is around AI assistants. So here in my wireframes, I'm exploring this other concept of an AI assistant. As part of the flow, I show an example of a manager creating an onboarding plan for their new hire. I might be relatively new to designing AI-related flows though, so I decide to add the guidance card for AI assistants right here in the plugin. Now let's see what we can learn from the guidance and what improvements I can make on my designs. So under preserve, I learned that it's really important to maintain motivation by including positive feedback, not just ways to improve. So as the system provides recommendations for this manager, maybe we can also make sure to acknowledge any actions that the user might have made to let them know they're on the right track. So here, an example is making sure the wording includes some kind of acknowledgement. And the example we show here is saying, nice work, the projects that you've already added include OKRs that map up to your goal. I can also make sure to give some context on where the system is pulling its recommendations from and provide easily clickable references that they can follow up on. Another quick win is around privacy and data. So from the plugin, I learned that AI comes with the risk of inaccuracy or bias, which can trigger anxiety. And it can also be intrusive and intimidating for people with privacy concerns. To help address some of this anxiety, though, I can make sure to add privacy and data information links to AI-generated messages that contain sensitive information in order to provide some form of reassurance on how we use their data. Lastly, I learned that it's important to avoid feedback loops by including prompts that help people close a task and move forward. So instead of constantly providing new actions or recommendations on things that they can do more of, I can choose to include an action that'll help this manager wrap up all the recommendations that they were given and finish it up for a sense of completion. So these are just a few examples on how someone could modify their designs based on the guidance. In the plugin, I can also view direct quotes from customers for each design pattern to better understand and empathize on the impact that these designs can have on people's mental health. Similar to the guidance cards, I can drag and drop these quotes under the customer voice tab into my file. And the way that some people could use these quotes is also to defend their inclusive design decisions and help build empathy with their partners. So one example here under AI assistance, we heard from someone that it felt like it wasn't inclusive around regeneration and that the never-ending suggestions made them feel like they never reach a success state. And as product makers, like Ali was saying, we should really be crafting experiences that make people feel good. So that is a quick rundown of the mental health and cognition plugin and how someone could use it to improve their designs. And in the share tab here, I can apply the plugin broadly with my team and share it out to them, or I can share it to my larger community on LinkedIn as well. And lastly, if I ever need a refresher, I can revisit the tutorial in the Learn tab or visit the Inclusive Design website for more tools and processes. We know that Figma, unfortunately, isn't the most accessible tool for everyone, though. So all the guidance and the customer quotes shown in the plugin here have also been formatted as an accessible PDF that you could use as a workshop or a worksheet. So this plugin overall has been a huge culmination of multiple teams and participants across Microsoft coming together. And in the spirit of co-creation, we recently completed a 1-month pilot for the plugin, which included different teams internally and groups across Microsoft. And this gave us a really strong foundation of feedback that we were able to iterate on and continue to make improvements ahead of our external launch next week on March 7th at Ability Summit. Just to give you a quick demo, I know that we showed a demo here in the slides, but also as I'm sharing my screen. So if you go to the Figma community plugin or community page today, you can even just type in mental health cognition plugin, and then you'll see our community page here. If you're new to Figma, you can click open in and just load it on any one of your files. So one of the files that I was showing was this wireframe one. I click plugins and I load the plugin. This is what it'll look like. So we have this all live right now internally for you all at Design Week to test out. And we have about 14 different design patterns that we have guidance for at the moment. So it's not a full encompassing list, but it's a great place to start. And again, like mentioned, you can drag and drop these cards and all of that is fully functional today. So would love for you all to give it a try. Again, we are launching this in March 7th next week externally, and I'll pass it off to Ali now.
So we are not done after this. This is our MVP for what the mental health and cognition could be like. We really feel like we have more work to do, and we're really excited to release this to the world. But we also have some ideas how we can make it better. The first thing is being able to scan with AI. Right now, it's very user-driven. You know, you have to recognize your own components and bring the guidance into your Figma file. But what if AI, through image recognition or in plugin design, what we call sniffing components, can kind of just help you recognize and replace things with examples side by side and be kind of your co-pilot for designing better with mental health and cognition. Number 2 is better guidance. We really want to hear your feedback about what the guidance has been like, and kind of make things clear and better and provide more examples. And then also add more design patterns that we see can impact mental health and cognition. And number 3 is, how do we help people measure success better? There's a lot of work, like I said, being done in this space, and we kind of want to bring that into our plugin and help people do that beyond MAU and DAO. And with that being said, after years of work and on behalf of the entire V team and all of the people with conditions that helped away, we are so grateful to be able to offer you these resources today. Personally, I had to keep speaking about mental health a secret my whole life because of the stigma. And that's why I think it's really important to put a magnifying glass on this responsibility and denormalize some of the effects our technology can bring. Now that we can talk about mental health, we can really solve for it at scale, and we need to do that together. So please message any of us at any time and give feedback and thoughts along the way as you start using them. And with that, thank you so much for attending, and the floor is open for any questions or thoughts. We'd love to hear how to integrate this with our team. And thank you again.